And I'll welcome everybody properly now. Welcome to the February meeting of Access Europe, and I'm very pleased to have Thomas Möller here, who, as many of you will know, was an Access MVP for 10 years, from 2007 to 2016, when he supposedly retired from Access work shortly afterwards, but seems to be busier than ever in the way that people do. He is still working. I won't give you more details about what he does, to say other than that he's from southern Germany. Two main websites that you may want to look at, which he will give you links to later: teammuller.de and also his GitHub site as well. But at this stage, Thomas, if I stop sharing again, I will hand straight over to you, and thank you ever so much. Looking forward to this tremendously.
Okay. So, yes. Thank you for the introduction, and a warm welcome from my side. Welcome to my presentation, Better Access Charts. I call it the real modern chart. And let's see how it goes. Some words about me. My name is Thomas Möller. I started my career as a banker. For 13 years, I was a full-time Access developer. And since 2013, I had different roles in our IT department. I've been an MVP for 10 years, as Colin mentioned, and in my spare time, I work on my website. It's only a hobby at the moment. So ways to contact me, there are many of them. And you don't have to remember any of these addresses. Just take the lens of your smartphone onto this QR code, and you are guided to this website where you easily can click on a link and we are connected. So that's easy, I think. Let's get you. What are we doing? What can you expect? At the beginning, I will talk a short moment about charts in Access. Then I will tell you how it came about that I tried to put in JavaScript into Access and how it worked. We have to talk about external dependencies and how to get rid of them. I have to make you a little bit familiar with the basics of Chart.js, only the basics. And at the end, I will show you some class modules I wrote, and I will show you how easy it could be to have an implementation in your own database. So that's what we are looking for. And here we go. Charts in Access. I have to talk about classic charts, modern charts, and some alternative solutions. So let's start with the classic charts. You may see the asterisk here as the title, and this leads you to the footer where you'll find a note with a link to a video. This video was done by Philip Stiefel. Philip did a video about the modern chart, and he did a comparison. He compared it with the classic chart, and I asked him if I can borrow his conclusions from my slides, and he allowed it. So thanks again. So, classic charts. We have them since Office 97, called Graph Chart. And it's an ActiveX control. And since Access 2010, it's integrated into Access. It looks somewhat dated, and it's really, really not intuitive. I will show you that in a few seconds. And we have a steep learning curve to deal with it. Here's a small picture of how ugly maybe it looks like. The modern chart. The modern design. We have a modern design, yes, and it's more easy to use. We have no external dependencies because they are directly baked into Access, and they can be used in continuous form. Okay, and the downside, yes, we have only a limited set of chart types. We have not so much formatting options as we wish we had, and it's not possible to deal with the record set as a data store. And this is how it looks like, a little bit better, but I think we can, this can be always a little bit better. Alternative solutions, yes. There are alternatives. Many people I know, they export their data to Excel and at the end report with Excel. And the other side, yes, that's my thought. On the web, there are such great solutions. And isn't that also possible with Access? Maybe we could have a chart like this one here down on the right. So let's have a deeper look. And I prepared a demo database. I started with a copy from the German version of the Northwind database. Then I dropped everything I didn't need. And at the end, I spent a lot of time to get a small data sheet with just 10 or 20, 10 or 12 figures on it. So it would have been easier directly open a new table and type some demo data in, but that's another story. So you will see in the next moment. This is the demo data, and I will show. I will present it in 3 different ways. Let's start with the classic chart. You all know how this looks. And yeah, now we go to design view and have a deeper look. And I have to do a double click to get in here, and there I can move up to this menu. And here you can try to do your configuration. And when you look for the chart type, we have, I think I've counted the one. I think that the number is 45 or so. So 45 different charts, but it's really not easy to figure out how it works. The modern charts, they look like this, and we also have a deeper look in the design view. When I'm here, I get the chart settings here as on a pane, and it's it's fine. You can set some values for the format and some of the data, and additionally, you have to use the property sheet. Maybe if you want to deal with the chart type. And this is the whole list of chart types and available. And if I remember it right, we have only 10 of them. So when we think about modern charts, I think they are really, really limited. And the modern charts, when the Access team did them, I think they had the best things in mind when they started. And it's, I think it's a good version 1, what they did. And as always, life happened. And the team was shrinking, and yes, they had other priorities, and they left the modern charts as they are, and we have to deal with the bugs and the limited possibilities. So what about this kind of chart? I really love this animation. And this is an alternative solution I built together with Chart.js. No, I don't want to save anything. I now kindly ask you to participate in a short survey. Please put your answers directly into the chat box, and at the end, I will ask Colin to sum up the results. So let's try it. My first question. I use classic charts regularly, rarely, or never. Please put your answer directly into the chat box. Do you use classic charts regularly, rarely, or never? So let's do the next question. I use modern charts regularly, rarely, or never. So my last question. I do charting with Excel regularly, rarely, or never. Okay. So thank you all. Thank you, Colin, for summing up the results, and thank you all for being part of this short survey. When I do this survey, the results are always the same. Some people use classic charts. Literally nobody uses modern charts regularly, and many people, when they do charting with Excel, and not so. Access has a gap here, and I try to fill that gap with my solution. Okay, let's come to the next part. How it came about that I tried to bring Chart.js and Access together. My initial situation. In 2020, my boss called me. He gave me a telephone call and he said, Thomas, as you know, we have Corona. Please do not come to the office. Stay at home, work from home, and this is valid until I come back to you. And so it was. I worked from home. This brought me into a situation that I saved the commute in the morning, the commute in the evening, all in all 2 hours, and going to the cantina with the colleague almost an hour. And when you have a lunch at home, 30 minutes are a totally fair amount of time. So I saved 2.5 hours each day. And yes, we were heading to summer and the sun was burning all day long. And it was a great time for me. I stopped working at 3:30. And then I spent lots of time on the golf course. So the summer went to an end. Autumn or fall came. It was raining. It was getting dark earlier. The days were monotonous. I couldn't get out. I needed a distraction. So that was my situation when I started this project. And yes, when I first thought, yes, okay, we have a problem with charts in Access, and everybody is using JavaScript for now, and charts with JavaScript are possible, and there are many libraries out there. And I thought I have seen something like this before. So I spent 2 evenings with research on the internet, but at that point in time, I can't find anything to do. So I can't find anything. So I thought, good, that's your that's your thing. You do the next evening. Maybe you will come over the winter with this with jobs. So my first try, how I started. I needed an HTML file with a chart. And yes, I have a son. He is 25 now, and he is studying and he is building a web shop. So I thought that's the best guy who can help me. So I asked him to deliver me a HTML file with a chart in it. He asked me what framework he should use, and I told him, you better know than me which framework is best. And at the end, I received a static HTML file, and we can have a short look in this file. And if I find the right keys, so you can see what the chart was, and here you see in the middle, you see a small HTML document with some information in it, and here's the script part. And my son is as lazy as I am in many situations, so he just copied this part from the website of Chart.js. It is in here, and I was happy. I had a HTML file with a chart, and the next thing was, yes, okay, let's open a new database, put in a form with the web browser control, and try to find out the code to load the file. I did, and I failed in the first try. Let me show you what I did. I had this form here, and we have only a web browser control on it, the web browser control, and the control source is about blank to make sure nothing is shown when I open the form. That part works, and you want to see the code that's on it, and the code is coming in a few seconds. So this is a reference to the web browser control. I use a navigate method to load the HTML file. So really, really simple and straightforward. And when I first tried it, as I said, I failed. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. And yes, I tried some way to work around that. And at the end, I did some research on the internet. And an hour later, I found out, okay, I had to set a value in the registry to make this happen and to make this work. So I set this value in the registry. I will talk about that later in detail. And then this happened. I pushed the button and yes, okay. I see the document is loaded. I see the header, but I see security advice. Sorry, this is in German, but I can tell you this tells you you have to deal with it, and I tell the computer, okay, it's fine for me. Let's go on. And again, I get a security advice, and I say, yes, I really, really want. And at that moment, the chart is loaded and is shown, as you can see here. So this was my first try. And at the end, yes, it works as expected. So I think it's the right time to do a short digression to the web browser control. It's available since Access 2010. It's Daniel Pino has done an extensive documentation. It's the title is Everything You Never Wanted to Know I think that this is saying all we have to know. And I have a screenshot here with this table of contents. Yes. And I marked two points we have to talk about: the feature browser evaluation and the mark of the web. So let's have a look at the website from Daniel. And here we are. And I said we have to deal with a feature browser evaluation. And here it is. And here you can read, maybe, no, that was not a good idea. Here you can read the Access web browser control always starts with with running as an instance of Internet Explorer 7. And Internet Explorer 7 is very limited in its capacity of dealing with JavaScript, but there is a solution. You can say set a key in the registry. It's called feature browser evaluation. And with this key, you can specify which version of Internet Explorer the web browser control is emulating. And the values are listed all down here in this table. And I use always 11001 to force EA11 emulation. So with one setting in the registry that's pointed out here, you can make it happen that Access can deal with JavaScript and charts with Chart.js are working. The next thing I want to show you is called the mark of the web. You remember the security advice you saw, and to get rid of it is simple and easy. We only have to put in one line of code in the HTML file. It's a comment we can set, and we just put in this line of code, this line as a comment in the HTML file, and the security message has gone. And that's really nice. That's what I was looking for. So how is this working from a schematic structure point of view? We have a Access database. We have a form in it. On the form, there's a web browser control. We have the registry add with one value for the feature browser emulation. And we have our local file system. In the local file system, I save the HTML file. And this HTML file is loaded into the web browser control where the chart is shown. And the HTML file deals with the files for Chart.js, which are also stored in the local file system. So it's working. We can do charting with a JavaScript library directly in Access. Before I am too happy, let's talk about some external dependencies and how to get rid of them. You remember this picture from a few seconds before, and we have two dependencies to deal with. One is that it's necessary to deal with the registry, and the second is we have the files for Chart.js, and we have to bring them in to the file system. These both points are not good, and I looked for solutions, and I found them. What can we do with Chart.js? The local file, you can store it in the application directory, as I did in my first attempt, that's fine. If you have more than one solution which is dealing with Chart.js, you may come up with the idea to have a central directory to put in only the files only one. That's also possible. Where's the file from? Yes, you can save the JavaScript file directly to a table and export it if necessary. So you can deal with this. But is this the way we want to deal with it? Okay. Before I show you the solution, I have to tell you how I came across this solution. When I did my first attempt with this Access database, I feel the need to try if this only works on my computer or if it will work on another computer too. So I went to my son and asked him, Access is running? And he said, yes, Access is running. So I gave him the files. We saved them on the file system. He opened Access, he opened the form, he pushed the button, and nothing happened. I was a little bit disappointed. And a few seconds later, I remembered, okay, we have to deal with the registry key. And I asked my son, please, can you be so kind and set a key in the registry? And if you ever have, everyone who ever raised a child knows that they not always do as they were told. This was also here the case. Instead of opening the registry editor, my son started opening the browser and typed in some words like Internet Explorer and feature browser emulation and so on. And a few seconds later, he came with an alternative solution. And the solution is, I told you the false thing. I mixed up my presentation in this. I mixed up my presentation here. The solution for the chart file is you can use a CDN. A CDN is called a content delivery network, and you need an internet connection and you set the script tag to the space in the internet, and you can load the files for Chart.js directly into your browser, and they happen to be on your file system. Short digression, what is this CDN? It's a content delivery network, and we can imagine it as a network of regional distributed servers. The goal is to get more resonancy and to deliver the files faster. Let's have a look at this picture here in the middle with one server in the center. If this server is down, the whole thing is down. And the solution is to have a network of regional distributed servers. So if one server goes down, the other can take over, and you always will have your files when you ask for them. And fast delivery, let's have a look at the length of the line. And this is equal to the amount of time it will need to deliver the files from the host to your computer. And in this solution, the lines are significantly shorter. And this will mean that you get your files faster. When we deal with the JavaScript files, we can't measure it, but when we deal with media information like videos or images, you will find you will feel the difference. A real example is Cloudflare. And I thought about Cloudflare because Chart.js, for example, is hosted there. And they have more than 250 data centers spread all over the world. So I'm really fine with this solution. I never save the Chart.js file on my local file system. I always use the CDN. And for me, that's really, really fine. So next, we have the feature browser emulation. I showed you the source from Daniel Pinot, and we need to set a value in the registry, and that, yes, we can customize that, the registry using VBA, but we have a small problem. The problem is we have to set the value for the feature browser emulation before the form with the web browser on it is opened. So you have to make sure you deal with this in the you deal with this right. And now the other solution, the solution for this problem, remember what I told you about my son. Instead of opening the registry editor, he opened the web browser and he came up with the solution. You can set a directive in the HTML code and in the red box here. And when you set this into your HTML code, you don't have to deal with the registry. I was really, really happy when I found out about that. So let's have a look at the whole thing without dependencies. We only need the file system to hold the HTML file. The JavaScript library comes from a CDN from the web. And I've blurred the registry down here because we don't need it anymore. So this is a point where we should talk a little bit about Chart.js basics. I always tell you, yes, I did it with Chart.js, and can we use it? What about the license? And how does it work? And this is all in this section. Let's start with the license. Chart.js is published under the so-called MIT license. We can have a look at the web on GitHub. You see the whole project and the license information, and I put the relevant part onto the slide for readability. For the MIT license needs, you have the permission for commercial use, for modifications, for distributions, and for private use. And yes, nothing is, you get nothing for free. We have some limitations, no liability and no warranty, but I think that's really, really fair. So the whole thing is freely usable, even in commercial projects and commercial products. So I think this is absolutely fine for what we need. Yeah, let's start with the basic structure of the HTML file. I've broke it down to, I think, 30 lines of code. And we go through them to get an overview. Here in line 2, you see the mark of the web, the comment that is necessary to get rid of the security advice. And line 6, you see the directive, which is necessary that the feature browser emulation is done right by the web browser control. In the lines 9 and 10, I have the references to the script to two scripts. One is Chart.js itself, and the other one is in a plugin. And you see HTTPS, so I use a CDN here. And down here in the lines 13 to 15, we define an HTML5 canvas. And now to the second half of the HTML file. In line 17, we grab the canvas element. And in line 18, the chart is created. And in the lines from 19 to 68, the definition of the chart is done. I have folded the code a little bit, so we can better see the structure of what it is. So this is how we have to set up the HTML file to make it work and to bring it a chart in Access. What about the chart type? We have a total of 9 chart types in Chart.js. The type in the first column, I have the names from the Chart.js. And in the second column, I look for the name in Access. And we see normally they are named equally. Only the column chart is maybe a bar chart or a horizontal bar chart when we have it in Chart.js. We can set an additional option to make it stacked. This is possible for line charts or bar charts. And we can have them filled. A filled line chart means that the space, the area under the line is filled with the color of the line. This is possible in a line chart, in a radar chart. So this is the documentation. And when we have a look at the documentation, we will see it's all explained in here. We have a line chart, and I really, really love these animations. That alone is worth. It's worth to deal with it. And we have the different chart types: radar chart, donut and pie, and a polar area. And yes, this one is a nice one. And I often ask people, okay, can you please tell me which portion, which points, red, green, yellow, gray, or blue, which has the greatest angle? And I did that with Colin when we prepared the session. And he suggested maybe gray, that's the greatest angle, or maybe green. And I said to him, okay, let's have a closer look. And we have interactions here. And you see, they all have the same angle. And we can hide and bring back the value as we like it to compare values directly when we want it. And this is what you get when you deal with JavaScript, when you deal with Chart.js. So we also have bubble charts or scatters. Yes, who is interested people who are interested in this, they will know how I work. So the next, data and labels. The definition of data and labels, the data set is really easy. At line 22, I set the labels, in this case, January, February, March, and so on. And in the line 23 and following, I define the data set. And in line 24, I start with a data set. I label it data set 1. And the values for January is 5.5, 4 for February, 7 for March, and so on. In line 27, I defined a second data set called the dataset 2, and here is the data, and so on. You see, it's not really a rocket science. It's easy to read and easy to understand, and the whole thing is in the documentation of Chart.js on the web. Colors. Yes, you can deal with colors, and you have 3 ways to define a color. You can have an RGB value, as we have here for the background, maybe 255, 99, and 132. I can't remember the color, but I think it will look really nice. Another way to define a color is to set an RGBA value. The A is for the alpha channel, which means you can define the opacity. And when you have a line chart, tilt line chart, you can have interesting effects when you deal with the alpha channel, with the opacity. You also can deal with standard color code as red or green or gray or light gray. And you also, yes, it's absolutely easy. One of these 3 types to define a color. The whole thing also is documented here. And when it came to colors, I thought, okay, colors is a little bit of a problem. I don't want to set a color which to each data point. So I defined the colors at the beginning. And the problem is, when you have more data than you have colors defined, the last columns, the last values will be shown in gray, which is not fine. So I thought, okay, I'm a programmer, I can deal with that. I can set a random function to give out RGB values, and I tried and it worked, and I put it into my solution, and after 3 days I throw it away. It was not the right way to deal with colors. The problem was one problem. Each time you start, you build a chart. The bar, in my case, it was a bar chart. Column 1 has a different color. That's not good. And the second point was we had a lot of trouble with colors. When you have 2 bars next to each other and the colors are not fine, it's really ugly to see. So I used an alternative. I found a plugin which can deal with colors, and I will talk about that later. You will see it in action. We have to define, if we want to, a chart title. It's really simple. The title, set display to true, define the position, and set the tag. And as you can see here, there are lots of more attributes you can set if you want to. This is only an example. For the legend, the same is true. It's easy. We have a legend here, display set to true, position is right, and we will see a legend. And also, again, we have a lot of more options all in the documentation. So it's easy to extend this model to your needs. Access, yes, access, there is a section of scales. We can define an y-axis and an x-axis. We can give them a name. We can display them or not. We can control the stay label, display them or not, give a label string, and we can deal with the text, begin at 0 or minimum or maximum values. Again, everything and lots of more options are in the documentation. And at the end, I told you I deal with one plugin for the colors. It's a plugin for the color scheme, and there's an additional section at the end where you have to define your plugins. And then when you have a look in the documentation of Chart.js, you will find only some general information and nothing specific. The specific things are documented normally on GitHub with the plugin on the side of the plugin. And you can have a list of plugins and other extensions. They are also published on GitHub, and here's a whole list of additional charts. You can have a financial chart or a bar funnel, or I don't know what a Sankey is, but you can have it if you want it. We have some plugins, maybe for colors, and we have some other features, and yes, lots of extensions to this framework. So this was how the thing is set up. And now what I did with all this. First, my basic idea, then the schematic structure, and at the end, a step-by-step installation to your application guide. My basic idea. I thought it should be easy to integrate into your own application. There should be no need to know anything about HTML or JavaScript. And certainly you shouldn't have to know anything about Chart.js. That was what I'm aiming for. And additionally, is simple data binding. So, okay. And how did I do it? Yes, I did an implementation with a class module. At the beginning, I started with one. Over the time, it grew and grew, and I split it up into several modules. Then you have to do your configuration via VBA code. This is absolutely similar to Excel chart when you try to automate Excel. And my intent was to give you intelligence wherever possible. So you can see a small portion of code, how it looks like, and what is the basic the schematic structure behind all this. We have, again, we have a database, we have the file system, and we have Chart.js stored in the CDN and on the web. In the database, we have a table with the data. We have one or more modules, and as we already know, a form with the web browser controller. Then the module is taking the data out of the table. Then the module is composing the whole HTML file with the data and all options as you have specified them. And all is at the end, it's in the HTML code. And then the whole HTML file is loaded into the web browser control. And when we need the functionality of Chart.js, the web browser takes it from the CDN from the web. and how can you install this in your application. The first thing is, yes, okay, go to the GitHub site. I will provide a link at the end of the presentation. Download the sample code of the sample database and then import the class module to your database. Then enter the web browser control and some first lines of code to have the basic function. It's only 3 lines of code we need to make sure the whole thing will work. And this is what we get when it works. And now, I think there is some time left. And now I will go over or switch over for a short demo. And as you can see here, I have loaded, I've imported the class module. This step is done, and I now start with the creation of a new form and form design. And I put a web browser control on it, and we give it a meaningful name. Now, the control source is about blank to make sure nothing is shown, and give it a name. This has a control web browser. So let's see what's happening. Everything is going fine. Now I add a button. Button here. Cancel this. Give it a name. CSV chart maybe. And on the click event. No. Yes. Now we are here in a few seconds. And now 3 lines of code. I dim my chart as a BAC chart. BAC is my personal abbreviation of Better Access Chart. This is what I named the whole project. Then we need an instance of it. That my chart has a BAC chart. You see intelligence is working. And now I need the web browser control. And the last step is, yes, let's create a chart. Okay, 3 lines of code. And let's see what happens. When I now push this button, you see the chart. How is this done? We haven't defined any data. Yes. This is done by intent. I have built a sample data set into the class module to make this short test possible. So when you start coding, you start with these 3 lines of code, and when that works, you know, okay, now I know the environment is set up right. I can deal with Chart and Chart.js and the Better Access Chart. And if not, the problem is not in the coding, the problem is maybe in your environment. So after that, we will have, we look for it to set up a chart type. My chart.chart type we set it to a line chart. And then I deal with the data source. And define the object name equals to table demo data. And the label is stored in the field with the name easy data label. And the data field. The data is stored in the data field with the name. And now I bring an array with 3 values. And I was a little bit lazy. I named them dataset 1, dataset 2, and dataset 3. To have it easy when I do this demonstration. So let's have a look, and I need to close the with block. Debug the scoping. It's debugging, so next thing, it's running, and we now see a line chart with the data from the table data. This time I've learned from the first demo database. I just opened the table and put in 6 values, 6 lines with some values, and it's working, and it's enough for a demonstration like this one. And I think you will believe me that we can now expand it and define anything else as we like to. So data binding and chart type, we have seen how easy it is. And this was the code. And we can insert the title, we can define a legend, we can format the access and other options, maybe with a little bit code like this one. And now I think we come to the best part. I've done the whole work, and you can download a sample file from GitHub. You will get this database. And when I open the data, we can create a chart, and we can do the configuration here. And yes, we can deal with the data sources, but that's not the point here. Maybe we want to have another type of chart, not a bar chart, but a line chart. And here it is. We want to have it filled, maybe, okay, or stacked also. That is stacked. And the interaction I showed you, they work when we are using the web browser control. So you can do funny things with your data in Access. On the chart level, I told you about the color schema and my problems with defining colors. And I found a plugin, and I think this guy has implemented, I think, 400 or 500 different color schemes. And they all have a name. And you can reference this through my database, my demo database, and yes, we look for another color schema, update the chart, and here it is. I think, yes, another one. So we can deal with the background color. Maybe we can set a light gray. You can show a download link. My connection is not stable. A download link, and you get a PNG file. You can save it, and it's showing the data in the PNG file as you have it on the screen when you click the download button. We can have the title, and I love Access Europe is more appropriate for this group, and we want to have it on the left side. So here it is. I have Access Europe, and you want the color in red. Maybe it's possible. The legend, we don't want to show a legend. It's possible. The access, yes. For the access, maybe I come over with a demo data set and with a bar chart to make it more visible. What is happening with the access? You can decide to not showing any access. It's possible. You can say, I want to see them, and maybe we have Berlin here, and we don't want to see Berlin. So we can say the minimum value of the x-axis may be London, and update the chart, and Berlin is gone. Same is possible for the maximum value. And we can also set minimum values, maybe for the epsilon axis, -5 to +20. And here, do you like data labels? I like them a lot. So I want to see data labels, make them a little bit bold. Maybe we have them at the end. And the color should be red, and the size should be 16. Everything's possible. And on this tab, we have the script sources. I always use the CDN, and here I've configured the path to the necessary file. So this is what's possible with better access charts. And this is all in the work, has already been done. It's all in the demo database, and it's free for use. You can use it. The whole thing is published on GitHub. When I did these slides 1.5 years ago, I was at version 129, and when we have a look now, I'm at 230. I've published 47 releases to bring it up to this version. The documentation, there is a documentation. It's in the wiki of Better Access Chart, and you will find something like a roadmap. It's a little bit outdated. A ton of links and the documentation. And for each class module, you see a documentation of what's in and what properties we have, and how you can use them and how it works all together. So that's in, and that's possible. When I built the whole thing, I blogged a lot about my thoughts and what was happening to me. And the blog is also here. It's, yes, it's German content, but I think it's easy to find your language of choice to translate it. Maybe it could look like this if you like. Contribution, yes. Some people ask, can I contribute? Yes, you can. You can always contribute. Maybe you have an issue, you find an issue, so please feel free to add an issue here. It also could be a feature request. we can have discussion. And yes, if you're familiar with GitHub, you can have your own thoughts and at the end send me a pull request. We've done that several times to bring to polish up this solution. Okay, this is what is in my presentation for today. I've talked to Colin, and I said there's more stuff I can talk about. So this presentation could be continued if somebody wanted me to. I can talk about a little bit about the hierarchy of classes and how we made it. I can show you some additional properties and how to use them. I have a solution for reports. Yes, Chart.js in reports is possible, and I can tell you how this works. My ideas of how to get rid of the HTML file at all, there are ways, but no, it's not so simple as one thinks as the first step. And I can talk about adjustments to Chart.js version 3 or higher. And as you can see here, indeed, there should be a lot of work, but at the moment there are some problems, and I can tell you where the problems are and how I think we can overcome them. So nearly we are at the end. I have a ton of resources for you, links and again links. The whole link to the better access chart, the GitHub project, the blog post, and so on, all documented here in the presentation. And a lot of links for Chart.js, the homepage, the documentation, samples, the video, how to get started, and some other content we had in the presentation. So this was my part. I hope I could introduce you to better access charts, and you feel with me when I say these are the real modern charts. So thank you for your attention. And now I'm fine for Colin and the question.
Thomas, that was absolutely amazing. And even though I have looked at this earlier, every time I watch it, I get more and more impressed. That was stunning. And considering you say you do this in your spare time, I'm just incredulous. Your explanations were brilliant. You're so organized. It was stunning. And I think there's very few questions so far in the chat. I think because everyone was just watching you so intently, but that was really, really amazing. So I'm going to pass over to a couple of other people in a second. James Brimacombe did ask a question, but he's had to leave, so I'll ask it for him. And that is it possible to create high definition? Oh, I can't even say it. High definition image files from your charts in order to use them in publications?
No. You have what is possible is what you can do with the browser. And we emulated, we have a browser here, and when you can do high definition images with a browser, this would be possible. And if that's not the case, we can't do it.
Okay, thank you. Right. Your explanation was brilliant. Is the JavaScript website that you were showing us, is the explanation there as clear and detailed, or did you have to do a lot of work to interpret it?
The website for Chart.js, that's great. It's great. It helped me a lot. But you don't have to deal with the whole thing. I have done the whole work.
You've done it all for it all for us, unless we want to contribute, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Now, my last point before I pass on to Maria next is that I absolutely love the animation and the ability to customize so easily that you can delete data elements from your charts. You can change things that just literally with a single click and so on. Wonderful. If anyone decides that they do get fed up with the animation, is it possible to turn it off?
Oh.
I know that might be a really crass thing to say. I said I love it, but somebody might say, no, I'm fed up with it.
Okay. We have to do further investigations. I have never had this request. Moreover, people are saying, "Oh, yes, I love it. animation, give me more." And I can show you and I can tell you, yes, you can deal with these animations. You can control the duration. You can control the effect. That may be all things for parties.
Okay, right. I'm going to in a second open this up, but because of the time, I'm going to ask if people could actually just say that they want to ask a question in the chat. Maria first, and then Crystal, and then David. I think. Okay, sorry, Maria first.
Am I asking a question, or I'm going through next times?
No, ask your question, please, and we'll come back to you for next time. You had a question about versions.
Yeah. So I think Colin kind of answered it, but I'm not sure how this is implemented. When you first started saying how you are using that central data source to bring in the Chart.js copy, I was concerned that if they did updates that you might have errors in existing apps, but it seems like you can control the version and you're stuck on version 2. And how is that done?
Yes, you can control the version when you use a content delivery network. They have an endpoint, a location for each version. So you put in a reference to the version you want to use, and that will never change.
Okay, so then to extend that question, do you try to find a localized endpoint with the correct version on it and put that number in?
Localized? What do you mean with localized?
Meaning I don't want to have to go to Europe if I'm in the US, right? That's traveling all the way across. I'd rather have something more local.
Yes. You use, as I mentioned on the slide with the content delivery network. Let me have a look. It's here. You use a network. And I think when you are located in the US and you send a request to the network, the response will be delivered from the US.
Okay, so you just have to put the version number that's appropriate. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. Okay, there was a question from. Thank you. There was a question from Jack McDonald. He's still muted. I'll ask it for him. He can actually unmute if we get time. He said, GitHub provides additional chart types. If they're installed, do they become available to the form you demonstrated, or are they only available to custom written code?
Additional types of charts, as you have seen on the side with the plugin. This is a way you can extend the possibilities, but you have to do it on your own. Maybe you are so nice and you find out how to do it, and you code it, and you send me what is called a pull request, and I will be absolutely happy to integrate it to a next version.
Okay, thank you so much. Crystal, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, outstanding presentation, Thomas. Thank you so much. I have two questions. One is on the high definition question. Is it possible then to save the HTML as a file that could be opened in a browser that could then control the quality?
Yes, you can. You can save this. You can open the whole thing in an external browser, and then control the quality as you can do it with your environment.
Okay, thank you. And question number 2, since you asked about Excel and your polling questions, I was wondering if you are thinking about implementing your tool there, or you just wanted to know who used automation because they didn't like charting and access.
I wanted to know, is there a need for charting at all? When I first asked who is using regular classic charts, the numbers were low. And when I asked for modern charts, the numbers went down. And when I asked for charting with Excel, I found out that there is a need for doing charts with Excel solutions. And most of the people I know, they do it with Excel, and this is now maybe a better solution, and you can do it in Access, and you don't have to rely on that an Excel installed and your automation code is doing well.
Okay, Crystal?
Yes, thank you.
Right, there was a question from David Neely. When do you expect to complete the reporting tool?
Thank you for the question. The reporting is also done. I only don't have it in this presentation. I just wanted to have a cliffhanger.
Okay, I can see that David wants to implement this. You're actually online now, David. Sorry, go on, you speak.
Yes, yeah, thanks, Thomas, for answering that.
And I can see how you might have some uses for it in your monster app, as I've now nicknamed it. So I think you've just got a few charts in yours. So I think there'd be an awful lot of uses for you there. Right, would anyone else like to ask a question while we've got Thomas here? Okay, right. I'm going to, if there are no questions, and I can't see any other hands up here. Oh, Dwayne's microphone is on. Is there anything? Did you have a question, Dwayne?
No, not necessarily. Just, I guess what I'm wondering is, any experience like with Power BI, but I realize that Power BI, which has, charts on steroids, you can't embed that into like an Access form or report that I'm aware of. I did a quick search of the web, and I found where somebody had asked the question within a Power BI, but there were like no answers. So, and that's where most of my charting has been done in my last year or two of before I retired. So, but this is definitely, much better, and I really appreciate all the work Thomas has put into that. It's quite an undertaking. So, just
think if he was full-time working on this, right?
What he could do. No, this is not really the case. I started in autumn 2020 and 2021 and 22. So there are lots of lonely evenings when it was cold outside, and I thought, okay, let's do what you love to do and do a little programming.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Just to say, within a week or so, this will be uploaded to YouTube for you to watch again. And also, Thomas, I can't remember what we said. Are you going to make your PowerPoint available to me as a PDF to put on the website?
Yes. Lovely.
And then the other things you'll get from the links on your GitHub site and so on. So that's brilliant there. And the last thing I was going to say is, I will do a survey, as I've started doing after each month, and I would very much hope that as many people as possible will contribute to that. The answers have been really useful so far, and it's something I intend to keep doing here. So, right, Maria, all right, next month, do you want to share your screen, or are you happy just to talk to that?
No, I'm just going to talk about it. I just want to cover the 6 basic pieces of this topic that I'm going to talk about next month. And the topic is optimizing queries in SQL Server. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to decide which SQL queries need to be optimized. I'm going to talk a little bit about the activity monitor in SSMS, SQL Server Management Studio. I'm going to introduce the performance dashboard that's available for 17.2 versions and above. I'm going to talk a little bit about query simplification basics. I'm going to talk through displaying the estimated execution plan in SSMS and just really briefly a few techniques in there, and then introduce the query store, which is available with some of the later versions of SQL Server. So it's a huge topic. We will hardly graze it in this next talk, but I'll try to give you a power-filled hours worth of how to optimize queries in SQL Server.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Maria. And the last thing to say is one part of the survey I forgot to say earlier, and that is if people, I will ask whether people would like Thomas to come back later in the year to do a second session, which he's offered to do, which is excellent there. Maria, I know you've got a huge amount. You could cover probably 4 or 5 hours on that as well. But certainly that's something I'm looking forward to because I'm much less confident in doing optimizing in SQL Server. Right, I'm still recording. Just before I turn it off and end the session, are there any final comments from anyone else? No? Okay, I'm going to say thank you all for joining us. Thank you for staying longer than normal. And thank you once again to Thomas for an absolutely outstanding presentation. Okay, right. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to turn off the recording. And thanks again. And I'll speak to you soon, Thomas, and let you all know once the video is actually available to you. Cheers. Thanks again. See you soon.